Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. We are getting started in Tier 3 BRL F1 2019. I'm your host, BRL Exia 1984. It's a pleasure to have all of you guys here with me. As we get started here, we're just waiting for the last few drivers to click the check mark and we can get going in this race. Now, with the U.S. Grand Prix coming up, it looked like Mitch is having a little bit of issues with his wheels, so he will not be participating. We do have a low driver count due to the issues that are going around. We fully understand. But we are here. We are ready to race at USA. Let's get a little bit of the tire strategy, everything else up there for you guys all. As we get started, we're going to wait for some of the drivers to go out. Looks like Mad Marlin is going to try the hard compound. Wrathful is going to try the medium compound. We'll wait to see if any driver comes out and sets a fast lap. Yes, I know we have 12 drivers, but looking very strong. SF1 Rhodes, the championship leader now, may have the chance of locking it out. Rain at the end of the race. Thank you. I just got word from Jules that there's possibly rain at the end of the race, which is definitely going to be a huge toss-up to see. As we get going here, we see a couple of cars coming out onto the track as we go. See what we'll jump over here. Here we go. ER10, he is out on track right now. He's going out on soft compound tires. Likely or not, Jules, they're switching up to mediums. Rhodes is going for the hard tires again. We saw in Tier 2 there was been a couple of safety cars, especially coming up to that turn 1, and especially those S's, the really tight bending S's, to see how the drivers handle it as they go through. We're starting to see a little bit of amount of drivers coming out of the pits. Definitely something to keep an eye out on as we get going here. We'll ride aboard with ER10 as he's coming down this back straight, very long back straight. It actually kind of crests a little bit there down into that tight left-hand corner. Drivers are doing about 200, 205 down there as they come up to that corner. We're going to ride along with ER10 here as he comes through this little right-handed parabolica corner as he goes through before he hits the double lefts and onto the main straight. Who else do we have out? SF1 Rhodes is out on those hard compound tires going for a different strategy. Canada King and Big Mr. Brown, they're already out on their outlaps on the medium compound tires. Loki, he's out on those soft. Get Me My Pipe, he's out on those soft compound tires. So we're going to ride along with ER10 and see what happens. We're also going to jump down over by Loki to keep a track of him as he's going through as well. So here we have ER10 coming up into the S's, right on board as they go through. See what he can do. Real nice and tight. Cars getting very wiggly and washing out in those corners there. We have a yellow sector 3. Jump over with Loki here, see how his cars handle through the S's. Goes through really different compared to that. Really not washing out. He's going a lot harder on the brakes. Definitely having a lot of issues trying to keep that car under grips as he goes through. Get Me My Pipe. He's going through the first turn. To keep an eye on him. We'll jump over to Run the Jewels. Where's he at as he's coming down into that tight left-hand corner before the long back straightaway. He's pulling off to the side. And joining us in the booth today is Ferrari Nut 94. Welcome, Ferrari Nut. How are you today, sir?
I am tired because I've been up and moving around 12 hours, but now I'm here to fill in Oliver's spot because he is 3 hours from home, apparently.
Wow. A lot of travel. ER10 Motorsports sets a 133.8 on soft compound tires for that Scuderia Ferrari as the lone driver. Ferrari, we're starting to, I did get word at the end of the actual race there should be rain coming. But
Interessante.
yes, and a lot of the drivers here, as you can see in the actual qualifying order, they are, a lot of them are trying. We got 3 drivers looking to go out on mediums. SF1 Roads here, he's out on hard compound tires, so he's definitely going for a different strategy. There are 12 drivers here today racing with Get My Pipes. It's a 132.5 on soft compound tires. It's definitely setting the pace here from the other drivers. He's about 1.3 seconds faster than ER10. ER10's car did look through the S's a little washy there. You know, especially when he kind of let off the throttle, you know, you could see the front end wash away. As Big Mr. Brown on the medium compound tires goes a 135.2. At SF1 Roads goes a 135.5 on hard compound tires, so we know he has more pace. Question is he really going to show us more pace? We've seen throughout the season SF1 Roads has a tendency of going for the harder compound tire in the race, but sure, Ferrari nut, you know, you'd agree with me, the optimal strategy for this track is soft mediums here.
Definitely. The hard tire here is honestly, it's just a bit too hard of a compound. It doesn't give up nearly enough, and it really doesn't have any pace to it at all. There almost needs to be a step between the hard and the medium that they bring here, just for this, because it's. I'm not sure which compounds they bring, but I think it's probably the 2, 3, and 4, and I think the 4 is just a bit, or is it the 2? I forget which way goes harder. I think the lower the number, the harder the compound, but I think the C2 is just a bit too stiff for this track.
Yes, it is. It's very stiff, and there we have MRC Loki going with a 134.3 on 2-lap old soft compound tires. White Meat trying to catch Get My Pipe. These two drivers both had a massive battle in Japan. White Meat setting a 132.9 on soft compound tires, and Marlin showing the pace on those hard compound tires. He set a 134.5 on those hard compound tires, 2/10 behind Loki, who's in 4th on soft compound tires with a 134.3. So definitely we have two drivers, Rhodes and Marlin, that can improve massively to get up into that grid order. So we're definitely going to keep an eye. Let's take a look at the grid map. We got Canada King. He's on his fast lap. Oh, he's invalidated. He's coming up right before the end of the corner. Like me or not, slots to 3rd with a 133 flat. So let's see what Wrathful can do. He's on those medium compound tires. After talking with Wrathful earlier this week and his ultimate strategies and how he says he's been working on a lot of different setups. We've seen that he has shown a strong amount of pace when there's rain. So maybe this is the time that Wrathful actually comes out, you know, and wins a race. As he slots himself in 7th with a 134.539, 0.001 right behind Mad Marlin on those hard compound tires.
Yeah, I think Marlin, if he's on the hard tire, is going to be probably going to be one of the guys to beat, because you can qualify within, you know, a couple of rows of the front of the field on the hardest compound tire available. Then you're automatically setting yourself up to have a pretty good race. I actually did this in a league race probably about a year ago. I was by far the fastest person, and it was at Brazil. Went out there on the hard compound tire and qualified something, I think it was like 5th. And everybody else was on the softs, and just rode it out till I got to the front, and then just drove off in the distance and never looked back. So that may be what Marlin is attempting to do here tonight, which I don't know about that here because of the way the hard compound is, but the medium definitely can do that.
Well, it'll be definitely interesting to see how that plays out with, because we just saw SF1 Roads has gone to a 135 flat. who he's improved his time on the hard compound tires. Marlin is sitting in the pits. Looks like he's going to the mediums. Now, I understand a lot of times, these drivers, they're really fast on those hard compound tires through qualifying. But a lot of times they make a mistake and they end up going, they forget about what a big heavy fuel load it is in that car for 30 laps or so, and you're on hard compound tires. So, I mean, if he doesn't improve, it's definitely going to be a very interesting qualifying session for him, due to the fact that he's, he'll be on those hard compound tires trying to go through those S's while everybody else in the grid are on softs and mediums. And like you said, the question is whether or not can he get those tires warmed up as they go through. So we're right along with Ring Wraith coming on the back straight. He has yet to set a time in this grid here. He's sitting last in 12th place.
Well, considering how chaotic Turn 1 can be here, that might not be the worst place to be. Turn 1 is a very abrupt braking zone, and then a very tight apex that narrows up even more considerably on the exit. So with everybody's trying to stamp on the loud pedal and get as far into that corner as possible on the first lap, that might not be a bad place to be.
That's very true. We have Ring Wraith going through the... Ooh, he just invalidated it. What would he have possibly set? We'll see what he goes when he comes around the last corner. Looks like he just clipped a little bit.
Cue the sad tuba and trombone sound. Boom, 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 boom.
Yeah, he would have slotted in 10th. What a shame there. Let's see where we go up. We'll take a look at... We have Big Mr. Brown. He's on his fast lap. Where is he sitting? He's coming through the S's. He's 2/10 faster right now. Going into Sector 2, he's got Loki right behind him as they go through. Looks like ER10 is ahead of him on the back straight if they go down. See if ER10 improves on his time. He went purple Sector 2, 0.090 faster.
It showed that he was purple in Sector 1. He was a little bit out of shape there at the start of Sector 3, went a little bit deep into that first corner in the stadium section. Let's see if he can make it up through the fast right-hander, coming up towards turns 19 and 20. Nice and tidy through there, not taking the IndyCar line. He's actually going into the pits there. I don't know.
Must have invalidated. The whole track went red for him.
Yeah, he did. I think he might have cut the apex of turn 19 there just a bit.
Big Mr. Brown also invalidated. He went red. Let's see if it... Yeah, he did invalidate. He would have had a 1:33.9 on his time. Loki dove into the pits. He's not going to do anything. We'll jump over to Get My Pipe. He's coming through that stadium section, Parabolica. It's a random person. He left a session, and here goes Get Me My Pipe. He has crossed the line. He set a 1:31.9, setting the new pole position more than a second faster than White Meat here. He's definitely showing pace in that racing point, but the question is Marlin invalidated his time on those medium compound tires. He's going to have a couple more laps to go. Ring Wraith setting a 2:01. Either he's trying to decide, maybe I should start in the back and not really push it.
Either that or he's just taking a very slow warm-up lap or pair of warm-up laps to get those mediums up to the optimal temperature, because I see him behind Marlin here on track. Marlin actually pulling off to let him go by. I'm not sure if he's on a flyer here or not, as Marlin has actually invalidated this lap as well.
He is on hot lap. Coming down into this really tight left-hand corner here. We have a yellow Sector 2. Looks like the Ferrari at BR10 moving out of the way of Like Me or Not. So we have 4 minutes and 10 seconds to play as we go through. See what Ring Wraith can do in Sector 2 as he locks it up just a little bit. He's 18 seconds faster. That will put him 1:39, I'm guessing.
It's a bit difficult to say because those last couple of corners make such a big difference to the lap time here.
Very true. Let's see what he does going through the last couple corners. He has an invalidate. That's a good sign. Onto the main straight.
Very clean. Puts him up to
134.8.
And that's going to be
into the show.
That's going to be him done, I think, because there's only 3 minutes and 19 seconds left in the session here. I don't think he's going to be able to get around, get fueled up, and get back out in that space of time.
We do have Canada King. He's coming out. He may be able to knock someone out of the top 10. See, we've got White Meat. He's coming out on his out lap. Like me or not, did a 133 flat. He's starting his flyer just like ER10. So we're going to ride aboard with Like me or not as he goes through the S's. Nice and tight through these corners. I'm a huge fan of the U.S. track. I really do like it. I know a lot of people have a lot of grief with the track. I love it for what it is. But, you know, I mean, it's definitely, you know, I'm happy to see like an F1 track here in the U.S. And, you know, and we're able to, you know, call it our own. Definitely like to see, you know, F1 come back to Indy as well. We see Like me or not, and White Meat moving out of the way for him as he's going through Sector 2. It's like he purpled Sector 2 on his time. So that's definitely a good sign. We do have ER10. He's on another fast lap as well. He came out right behind Like Me or Not. So as everybody is starting to pile out on their fast laps and their out laps, what can Like Me or Not do? Can he improve? He jumps to second place with a 132.185. We're going to jump up to ER10.
And ER10 improves his time, but not his position. He's got one more lap, and he's backing out of it, so he is not going to fuel for another run at it.
His ring race is diving back into the pits. Looks like Marlin is going to stay on his time on those medium compound tires. Let's see where White Meat is. Big Mr. Brown is still, he's on his out lap. He's about to come across the line to start his out lap. Loki's going to start his out lap. See, Rhodes will start his out lap. I'm trying to keep track of all the drivers that are out there. Looks like all the drivers we have now are on, the ones that are on their out lap are about to start their fast lap. So we have Big Mr. Brown. He just crossed the line to start his fast lap. Then we will have Loki and Rhodes. And it looks like it'll be Wrathful, Get My Pipe, Canada King. He's on his fast lap. Is he improving? He's 3/10 faster. So right now, that could slot him into 8th. See what he can do in the last couple corners. One's really wide, but somehow saves it. Here he goes. DRS open. What does he do? Canada King moves to 7th with a 134.526.
Good improvement from the Williams driver there.
Let's see what we have. So Mad Marlin will be out. Ring Wraith will be out in qualifying. White Meat will be out in qualifying as the time is expired. We will definitely keep track of the drivers as they go through.
Looks like the last man running here is going to be Run the Jewels in the Renault. He's coming to the end of Sector 1 just now.
And here we have Big Mr. Brown. He's going through Sector 3. He's going to have Loki and Rhodes in tow with him. In that McLaren car. What can he do? He was a tier driver. Dropped down to tier 3. Does he have the pace to show? What can he do as he crosses the line?
Goes to 4th.
Right behind his teammate. We're going to jump over with Loki. Loki's about to cross the line. Loki invalidated right at the last corner.
Ooh.
He can't improve. Here goes Rhodes. Rhodes on the mediums. Rhodes jumps to 6 on those medium compound tires. Let's look at where Wrathful is. It looks like Get My Pipe is going to be ahead of his teammate Wrathful. jump over with Get My Pipe as he's about to cross the line. Does he improve? He does with a 131.8. As Wrathful dives in the pits, he's going to stay 11th. But we're going to jump with Jules. DRS open. Jules comes across the line. He improves to 6th place, but nothing more. So there you have it. Get My Pipe setting a 3/10 faster lap time than Like Me or Not, showing that pace in the racing point there, putting his car up on pole position. Definitely a newer driver that came into the league a little bit more than halfway. Definitely good to see that he's showing a very strong pace here in Tier 3. As we wait for the rest of the drivers to make their way around. There you have it. Here we go. And there we have it for the qualifying session for Tier 3 BRL. Get My Pipe puts his car on pole with Like Me or Not 2nd. White Meat 3rd. Big Mr. Brown 4th. ER10 5th. Jules 6th. Rhodes pulling his car into 7th. Loki 8th. Canada King 9th. And Marlon Kanga sets his fastest lap on the hard compound tires, and he's going to be sitting 10th. With Wrathful 11th and Ring Wraith 12th. Now, do you believe that, Frynet, that maybe Marlon's strategy of the hard compound tires kind of bit him? I mean, you're starting 10th, you're starting on hards. You're not as high in the grid that you want to be. You know what I mean? The hard tires are harder to work in, and they go. And then now you have SF1 Rhodes, who's sitting 6th, and he's on mediums. So he has a softer tire that can go even longer.
Yeah, I think that Rhodes is on the better strategy of the two there. I don't think the hards really have an applicable use here in this particular game, just because they are such a hard compound of rubber. They don't really have enough grip to give you any sort of real performance around this track. So I think having the medium to soft strategy is going to pan out a little better for Rhodes than it will for Marlon having those hard tires. That being said, Marlon will be able to go a little bit longer if he wants, because you do have to stretch either one or the other when you're on that medium to soft strategy.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas Marlon can just ride along until he gets to the pit stop, and then, oh, hey, soft tires, and they're good to go.
Very true. I wholeheartedly agree with you. Now, as a driver, being at US, turn 1 is definitely a very tricky turn and uphill, a little bit of off camber once you crest that hill and you're going into that corner. I mean, what's your thing as a driver? What are you looking at when you're going into that first turn and you're in the middle of the grid? I mean, what's going on? What's your strategy?
Well, your strategy really is just to try and make it at the other side, because somebody's going to go flying up the inside, because that's just the way the track is designed, is that the road actually opens up as you get towards the entrance of the corner, and so people have the tendency to just go for these wild dive bombs up the inside. Me, myself, I've made a couple of dive bomb-ish moves up into there during the race, but never on the start. Personally, I'm always one to take it cautious through there, just because there's always that guy who just goes from nowhere up the inside.
And yes, I mean, there have been a few times. I know with the Tier 2 race, we had a little bit of that through turn 1 going in, based on, how a lot of people, go into that braking zone and that. But then, also, a lot of these drivers, your nerves get worked up. You get like a really good result in turn 1. Sometimes you get a bad result in turn 1. And then there comes the S's where, sometimes you're going to have drivers that are going to want to fight you through the S's. And then there's the other drivers that they know when to fight and they're going to check up right behind you and follow you through the S's and push you to your limits through there. But it's such a weird S's because it's inviting, because when you go into that first turn and that second turn, I'm sure you could agree, you're going in there with so much speed that it catches you off guard, and especially when you have a driver right behind you that's pushing you, you know what I mean? Definitely makes a huge mistake. So I mean, I'm thinking that a lot of road starting six that maybe um, some of the you know some the decision for this race will most likely be through those S's. I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
Um, well, I really just think it's going to depend upon the strategy. Really, who's on softs, who's on mediums, who's on hards. You're going to see all the soft guys just rocket away at the start of the race, but probably around lap 6 or 7, you'll see them start sliding back into the clutches of guys like Rhodes and Marlin who have those harder tires on. Um, and then they'll kind of be on the back foot, but they'll get on newer tires sooner and then get an advantage there as well. So they may be able to get back in front of them, but then those guys are going to be on the softs at the end, so they're going to have a few laps of just absolutely rip-roaring pace, particularly depending upon what the guys who started on the softs do. If some of them go to the hards, then towards the end they're going to be looking pretty secondhand when they come up against those soft tires.
Yes, very true. And also, a lot of things that play into a factor that you and I haven't really talked about is, which driver has, the time trial setup and which one has the race setup. Because sometimes, a lot of
Exactly.
times, that time trial setup does come back and kind of, bite you in the long run.
It really
Because,
does, because you don't have to factor in things like fuel burn, tire wear, dirty air into the setup of the car. I always even factor in just the possibility of dirty air, particularly at somewhere like where did I do that? Like I think it might have been Japan that I did that. I just dialed up the wings by 1 just to compensate for the fact that I was going to be behind somebody at some point around there, and I didn't want the car understeering off the track. With an F1 car, it's a bigger deal because they punch a much bigger hole in the air because of just how many aerodynamic devices are on the cars. It's not simple aerodynamics like an F2 car has with a main plane and a second plane on the front wing. It's got 4, 5, 6 cascading elements to that upper section of the wing, which creates a lot of disturbances as it goes around the bottom of the car. And that washout creates this massive hole in the air, which when you're behind somebody through a twisty section like the S is here, really puts the tires under stress because they're having to work that much harder to get the grip out versus when you're in clean air with the aerodynamics of just shoving the car into the ground.
agreed. And here we have it as the drivers are going into Sector 3 before they finish their formation line. We have Get My Pipe putting that car on pole position. We have Like Me or Not sitting second. White Meat third. The McLaren duo going third and fourth. The solo for Scuderia Ferrari driver, ER10 Motorsports. He's had a very good season, very mid-scoring points there, very strong. Jules having an up and down season so far. SF1 Roads are championship leader. So if SF1 Roads can win the US Grand Prix, he will lock out the championship for Tier 3. But if anything happens to him, that's going to allow Loki, who's right behind him, who's on those soft compound tires, to keep the battle going. We have Candid King, who's sitting ninth in a very strong qualifying performance. Mad Marlin, who's going for a very weird hard compound tire strategy. Rathel, and then Ring Wraith. And here we have it as the drivers start to line up, as they start getting going, as we wait for the 5 lights. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lights. A little bit of delay, and they are off. Up to turn 1 they go. Get My Pipe covers the inside. Looks like Big Mr. Brown gets a beautiful run up to turn 1. Ooh, runs it really deep right in front of his teammate. Get My Pipe pulls an amazing lead as Big Mr. Brown slots up to second, just like we were talking about. Now here they go through the S's. Is anybody going to lose it a little bit? It's like we have a yellow sector 1. Wrathful loses it out, and he falls down the grid. Rhodes looks like he's fallen down to 9th. We have a safety car now.
Ooh! Looks like Wrathful has spun, but it looks like is he in one piece, or
he is in one piece.
His car he's missing the front wing. That's a bit of a silly safety car, if you ask me. He's only missing the front wing. The car is still functional. Not really sure why we're doing a safety car for this.
But from what I do remember, that if you do have a safety car on lap 1, I believe, if you pit at least I think it's 2 through 4, the mediums will take you all the way to the rest of the race. So if
they will, but they won't be looking very nice.
No, not at all. As we have Get My Pipe is going around, he's bringing the field through Sector 3. So let's take a look at who the biggest movers are and the biggest losers, as I like to call them. Not a whole lot. It's a lot of 2s and 1s here. We have Big Mr. Brown. He moved up 1 slot from 3rd to 2nd. Like me or not, still staying up there in the front row. He's going to dive into the pits. He's possibly looking at doing the alternate strategy here. As Big Mr. Brown stays out, ER10 stays out. As we jump, Jules is staying out. Mad Marlin, of course, he's going to stay out on those hard compound tires. Now, here's the interesting strategy. We were talking about how SF1 Roads was starting on those soft compound tires. Mad Marlin was starting on the hards. In 1 lap, Mad Marlin has actually switched places with SF1 Roads. So now SF1 Roads has to try to eat up those tires, get past the Mad Marlin here, which is definitely falling into his hands. Looks like we have, like me or not, he was able to come out in front of Loki. Canada King sitting 11th, and Wrathful's coming out with his brand new wing as we get started. So definitely looking like some of the front runners are still staying out. Or, haven't really moved a whole lot, but there's been a huge shuffle with that backpack.
Yeah, so this is going to shake up the whole strategy bag a lot now, because now the guys who maybe were towards the back on the soft strategy, now they've kind of got a get out of jail free card, and they don't really have to pit for the rest of the race. They can just run, and what happens, happens.
Now, Loki has gone to the hard compound tires. Same with Canada King. Wrathful and Like Me or Not both jumped onto the mediums. And with this safety car, if it does the full 3 laps, that's just going to stretch those medium compound tires even longer and fresher to where they won't have to really worry a whole lot about that.
Indeed, and that's going to leave Marlin and Rhodes with all the work to do, because the strategy was what they were playing on here, and now a lot of these guys that they were possibly looking to pass with that have now switched onto a harder tire that is going to get them to the end of the race that they're going to here shortly.
Looks like the safety car is staying out. It's not coming in. Looks like we'll have about 1 to 2 laps more to go. And during this time of the safety car, I'd like to make a huge shout out. BRL has started a Facebook page. So if anybody is interested in joining the league or news and information, please reach out to our Facebook group and also Twitter. Message us. We'll get with you guys as soon as we possibly can to get you in. We are looking at starting 5 tiers for the Xbox next season for F1 2019, as well as a PC league. I'm sorry, not for F1 2020, I apologize. And a PC league for F1 2020. If you guys, the viewers, are definitely interested in joining, please reach out there with us. We'll get you into the Discord and let you guys have a little fun with some of our evaluation races and get you guys going here, as we are lap 3 of 28 in Tier 3 for BRL. We've had a safety car. Wrathful spun, lost his wing. Codemasters decided, hey, you know what? This is not safe. We're sending out a safety car. So as we sit here waiting for the grid to go around, Ferrari Nut and I are trying to decide who out of the hard and medium compound drivers of Marlin SF1 Roads, who's going to be victorious and who's going to get past these 5 soft tire drivers.
Yeah, and I think it's just going to we're just going to see how this fleshes out, because we really don't know what anybody's race pace is here.
Well, we've seen that Get My Pipe is super fast on, as we have the safety cars going in this lap. We've seen that Get My Pipe is super fast on those soft compound tires around USA, but I don't think there's enough soft compound tires for him to constantly run back to back to back and just do a one lap last pit stop for a hard compound tire.
No, they don't last that long.
So we have Get My Pipe. He's backing up the field here. He's got to wait for that safety car to get into that pit lane before he can go, or else he'll automatically bog him out. I've noticed we've had a lot of those issues there throughout most of our league races.
Yeah, that happened to me actually on Friday in the sprint race. We had a one-lap restart at the end of the sprint race.
Here we go.
And
it's a beautiful run, half a second. Down into turn one he goes. It looks like a very strong pacing out of these soft tire drivers. Rhodes gets past Ringwraith. Looks like he's battling it out back there. We'll jump back there, take a look and see. Here goes Ringwraith all over the back end of that Red Bull. Can he make something happen with that Haas car? But Rhodes is just looking super strong on those medium compound tires. Looks like we've got White Meat. He's 2/10 back from ER10. Get My Pipe has pretty much said, you know what, this is my race to win, and he has checked out. He is pulling away as much as possible to about now a 1.4 second lead.
He is indeed, and that's the other strategy option that you have in a situation like this, is to just run the strategy ahead originally, which is what these front 4 or 5 guys are doing. They're really just not letting that safety car get them back in traffic, because that is the danger you have with that, is all of a sudden you may have been leading the race, but if you put under a lap 1 safety car, all of a sudden, in this instance, you're back in 12th place or thereabouts, and having all these cars in front of you, which is just going to slow you down, and it's also going to make you abuse the tires trying to get around them, as we have the McLarens going side by side there through turn 18, and now into 19, as it looks like Big Mr. Brown took to the grass there to avoid his teammate through turn 19.
Yeah, and he
now picks up a 3-second time penalty for his troubles.
Ooh, now the question is Mad Marlin, he's 4/10 behind his teammate coming up to turn 1 on those hard compound tires. How much is team orders going to play into a factor here in Tier 3? You know, once Jules' tires drop off dramatically here. I do know that in the game, the strategy is to go 11 laps on those softs and then switch to mediums. But now that Get My Pipe is now 2.3 seconds ahead of ER10 Motorsports in second place. Looks like Mad Marlin is still behind his teammate there. Let's see do we have any other close battles? Looks like Wrathful got past Canada King. Looks like he's 4/10 back behind Loki. Loki has fallen to about 2 seconds now from Like Me or Not on those medium tires. Looks like it was definitely your call that a lot of these hard compound tire drivers really did make like a very bad decision. And it's just not really playing out, especially with that heavy fuel load.
Yeah, it's always a gamble with doing the alternate strategy, and especially in this case, what I call the extreme alternate strategy, which is running the hard tire at the start of the race and the soft tire at the end instead of running the medium. Because you have the deficit of having an extra 300 pounds of fuel in the car, which everybody's got, but then you've also got the grip disadvantage, which is somewhat magnified by that, just because you do have that extra weight in the car.
Oh, very close, riding on the nose camera of White Meat as they come into turn 1 with ER10 Motorsport. He has lost part of his end plate, so that's definitely going to play a factor. Now ER10 Motorsports gets a 3-second time, and he has purposely crashed his car in the race. What a shame there. Ooh. As now that's possibly going to bring out a whole nother safety car as we have a yellow sector 1 and 2. He's DNF'd,
and in fact, it does in fact
bring out a whole nother safety.
Another safety car.
which is definitely either A, going to help out Get My Pipe, because he's most likely going to dive into the pits. ER10 Motorsports will be finished, at least this will bring in that gap that Get My Pipe already worked on. Now, the question as a driver, as we get to the safety car here, as a driver to you, Ferrari, now you're 6 laps into 28. Let's say Jeff tells you you're supposed to go to lap 11 on those softs, and then go to medium compound tires. As a driver, safety car comes out.
I would say at this point, Jeff, throw the strategy book out the window because we're going with this. Because at this point, you're not really going to gain anything by staying on those soft tires. It's more of you were stretching it out for the optimal. But with 2 safety cars in the first 6 laps, it's just not going to be worth anything to be on those tires after this. As we see Jules peeling off into the pits there.
Yeah, same with Get My Pipe, Big Mr. Brown, Jules is dying. Mad Marlin, he's going to stay out.
Basically, all those front guys just dove into the pits because they're thinking exactly what I'm saying.
See what happens.
And so now we see the harder compound tires coming to the fore.
Now this is weird. Get My Pipe jumps onto the mediums, which we thought was going to happen based on the tire strategy. Big Mr. Brown goes onto the softs. Jules jumps back onto the softs. ER10 jumps on the softs, and so does Loki jumps on the softs.
Huh.
So either they're looking at doing a 2-stop strategy, just trying to use, because they know that the medium compound tire drivers, they're going to have to pit, a little bit later. So if they utilize those soft compound tires to attack and push further in the grid, then that will allow them to even, when the medium guys pit, they'll be pitting also, maybe a couple laps sooner. That's my thought process on it. So that at least now the medium tires don't have that ultimate strategy. But the true question that I'm sure you're thinking, well, I'm mostly thinking is, what is Get My Pipe's performance on the mediums? Because anybody can be blistering on the softs, but once you touch a harder tire, it's not that.
It becomes more about being smooth and carrying the speed that you can't because of the grip, just through the car setup and natural skill. So it really just boils down to how good of a driver is he and how well does he have his car set up. Currently, I think he is the guy who is in the best position because he has made his mandatory pit stop. He's run 2 compounds of tires here, and he can go to the end on those tires, and he has proved that he is pretty much the quickest car out here, if not close to it.
That 100%, that's true. But now he's also got to get past Canada King, who's on hard compound tires, and then make it through Wrathful, who has shown he has very strong pace throughout the race and the full race. But guess what? We forgot. It's supposed to rain at the end of the race.
It is, in fact. So maybe Marlin is actually thinking, hey, I'm just going to run these things all the way to the end, and then when it starts to rain, Bob's your uncle. Because everybody else will have to have gotten off their original tires by that point. Maybe Canada's thinking the same thing.
And and that's true. I mean, kind of answers a lot of the questions of why Mad Marlin went to the hard compound tires and didn't go to the mediums, like a lot of the other drivers did. But we're now lap 8 of 28 with the safety car out. A lot to play. This is definitely turning into a huge mix.
Yeah, not the usual thing we see here. This is kind of becoming a bit of a chess game. And I only know how to play checkers.
But, it's definitely, you and I can sit here and analyze it while the safety car is going around and trying to figure out, what these guys are thinking and what these guys are going to do. But, my only my only issue is with some of these drivers that are in the back that went to soft compound tires is, even though the safety car is just, you're going at a slower pace, you're not expecting the tires, as we have the safety car going in this lap, and I'm just going to end it here with this, is whose soft compound tires are accidentally getting chewed up because of the way that their setup is during this whole warm-up process?
That's a very good question, and we will have no answer to that until after the race because we can't talk to these guys. We can't see what their setups are. But yeah, it can have a rather drastic effect if you've got the suspension too stiff, the roll bars too stiff, especially. That can tear up the front tires if you're not careful. As well as just the tire pressures. That makes a huge difference in the amount of grip the tires have and how much they're used. Camber settings, toe settings, all that affects the tire wear as you go.
All right, here we...
So obviously running less is going to give you better tire wear.
Very true, and here we go. Mad Marlin gets off to a wonderful start here, going up to turn 1. He gets a very nice run out of that last corner to give him a little bit of breathing room from Ringwraith, as now Ringwraith is also 6/10 ahead of SF1 Roads. Looks like the front runners have been able to give them a lot of space. And we're going to drop back here. Get My Pipe is all over the back end of... Ooh, looks like Canada King has lost it and has fallen. Canada King has crashed into Loki.
And Loki is out of the race. So now all Rhodes has to do... What is the situation with Rhodes winning the championship? How many points does he need to lock it up?
He just needs to finish the race, I believe. Canada King loses half of his wing. He's going to need a pit. We do not have a safety car in this race. What an interesting race. I mean, we've called it out a lot in this race. Is, the drivers are going to have to be careful as Get My Pipe gets past Wrathful here. So now Get My Pipe has to push. Now, it's anyone's game. Now, we see SF1 Roads. He's sitting third, though. I mean, you've got Get My Pipe, Like Me or Not, Wrathful. They're all also on medium compound tires. You have Ringwraith on medium compound tires. I mean, Roads could get, swamped here as they go through in this race. Based on, who knows? We may see another safety car. I do know Rhodes, personally, that he is not strong in the wet. So depending on how soon we see the rain, this could play a massive factor to him. As we see Canada King, he dives in the pits from his incident with Loki here in the S's. Take a look. ER10, he's 3/10 back behind Jules.
Oh, and Ringwraith has just made a mistake at the top of the hill here, and Rhodes has gone by. The car's still intact, but he lost 3 positions from that mistake. Rhodes, Like Me or Not, and Get Me My Pipe, who is already back up to 4th and closing on Like Me or Not.
We have a battle for 3rd and for 5th, both Racing Point drivers looking very racy. Here goes Wrath down on the inside. He doesn't look like he's going to make it stick, but he's going to try possibly a switchback coming up into this right-hand corner. He doesn't. He checks up right behind him.
He's going to possibly have a look here. Not quite. That's usually a bit of a risky place to try that. As Like Me or Not goes very wide off the exit of turn 19, that's going to bring Get Me My Pipe right up to the back wing of that Charles Russell, coming onto the front straightaway.
DRS is enabled as they go through.
But they will not be able to use it until the back straightaway because the activation and detection points are before the start-finish line on this lap. Pretty much, I think if Get Me My Pipe will just stick to the back of Like Me or Not through this first sector, he can get him down that back straightaway, and then he's got about half the track to get away from him.
Get My Pipe gets a 3-second time penalty.
He does, but I don't think that's going to be a huge detriment to him. He's on 5-lap newer tires than any of the cars around him. And he's also on medium tire, whereas Marlin's on the hard tire. So if he can get clear of roads, he should have a pretty good shot at Marlin, hopefully before those mediums start to peak.
Oh, he's going to make a move. Down on the inside, he goes with Like Me or Not. Matches the braking, and he gets it done right past Like Me or Not. Ooh, Wraithful looks on the inside of Ring Wraith. They went very side by side on that very challenging left-hand corner that we were talking about here at USA. Now Jules is all over the back end of Wrathful. The Wrathful tried that move on Ring Wraith. Looks like SF1 Roads is starting to close the gap in the Mad Marlin. Get My Pipe has fallen now to 1.6 seconds to SF1 Roads. He was about 4/10 behind him. ER10 makes it past Jules into turn 1.
Well, that can be just a byproduct of getting around somebody, and all of a sudden the attitude of the car changes a little bit once you get into somewhat clean air. You're not really getting clean air with this generation of Formula 1 cars until you're about 3 to 5 seconds behind, depending upon the track and the downforce levels.
That is true. I totally forgot about that. We have Wrathful now 4/10. There's a lot of close battles here and 2 different strategy battles that we have. We got the 7 through 10 and the 1 through 6, all battling it out in different styles as they go through. True question is how late are these medium tire drivers going to go, as we're lap 12 out of 28. Big Mr. Brown, he's looking on the inside of Jules. Is he going to make it stick? Late on the brakes, catches the whole entire apex there. Jules checks up behind him. Wrathful finally gets past Ring Wraith. Ooh, Ring Wraith gives him a little bit of tap. Ooh, back end breaks out just a little bit. He has to collect himself. SF1 Roads now 6/10 behind Mag. Yes.
Now, the one thing I don't really see any sense in anybody doing here are those 3 guys in 7th, 8th, and 9th, so ER10, Big Mr. Brown, and Run the Jewels, slapping on the soft tires. The only thing that I could think that they were going for there is to try and go with the fast lap and get that extra point, because they know if they finish the race, they're going to get points at this stage, and they're going to be eligible for that fastest lap bonus point if they get it. Aside from that, I really don't see much of any sense in going on to the soft tires, because it's not going to get you to the rain, even though it is starting to look a little bit overcast. That rain is probably still at least another 10 laps away. And taking those tires that far is just impossible. They'll implode before that point.
Yeah, that's very true. But I have noticed sometimes, the game has light and where it says, 10 laps to go, and then 3 laps later we start having a rainy lap as they go through. But like you said, you have 7, 8, 9. You're not making up a whole lot of ground on these drivers that are ahead. As with Get My Pipe, he's making the move on SF1 Roads in that down the back straight left-hand turn. So Get My Pipe getting ahead of SF1 Roads on those fresher compound tires, and he's just pretty much pushing as hard as he possibly can.
He is. He's taking a much wider entry into some of those tighter corners and getting a very late apex, which is going to enable him to get a good bit of extra speed down the straightaway compared to some of these other guys. So we can already see he's closing that gap down to Marlin, and because of the fact that he is still within DRS range, he's going to be hauling Rhodes along here to try and catch back up to Marlin. So Marlin may have to fight off 2 cars at once here in a second.
That's true. We'll have to keep an eye on them as they go through here into turn 1. Wrathful all over the back of Like Me or Not also. We're going to jump over there real quick. Nope, hold on. Can't Get My Pipe get any goes to the Mad Marlin. We're going to keep on with him.
I think if he can get a little bit closer through this section of track, he falls back just a little bit going through there. I think he's got no chance down the back straight right now. Well, maybe he's getting closer as we go down the hill here. That might have brought him right back into it. as it looks like Rath is going for a move into the hairpin on Like Me or Not. And he's going to get him, shoves him out a little bit wide. All's fair and level more there. As Get Me My Pipe does have the DRS. He's got the DRS open. Is he going to go for a move? He is going to go for a move down into the corner, 90-degree corner, to get back straight away. And doesn't squeeze Marlon too much. Marlon lets him have it. Knows he's on fresher tires and also on a softer compound tire. But that has brought SF1 Roads just a little bit closer to Marlon. Not enough to actually be a threat right this second. But if Get Me My Pipe starts to draw away from these guys, which I believe he will, he's already starting to do it, and breaks the DRS point of Mad Marlon, Rhodes is only just a half-second back.
Yeah, and then actually some of the strategy of these soft tire drivers are actually playing into a factor. ER10 has now leapfrogged Ring Wraith for 6th place. So the soft compound tire is playing a little bit of a factor to help him out, which also could play into a factor if he pits the same time that, you know, you have Ring Wraith that pits. We have a yellow sector 1. I do not see it. Like Me or Not gets a 3-second time penalty.
I think he may have half-spun. I think that Like Me or Not may have half-spun there at the apex of turn 1 and cut across the inside of it.
Yeah, and we have Ring Wraith all over the back of the gearbox. Yep, the back end plate of Like Me or Not is gone. I mean, not the back, the front end plate, I apologize, is gone as they are taking the battle up to the left-hand corner right before the back straight here. Canada King gets a 3-second time penalty.
Not that that's going to make a huge difference at this stage. He's 50 seconds back at the nearest car to him. So
here goes the freight train. There. Ring Wraith is going to make it stick on the inside. Does ER10 can't. He's going to have to check up right behind Like Me or Not. Big Mr. Brown is all over the back at ER10. This backpack is looking extremely racy as Get My Pipe finally makes it. He got past Mad Mar. ER10 getting a little loose. Big Mr. Brown's looking at it. We have 12 laps to go. Big Mr. Brown's looking on the inside on the last corner. He gets a 3-second time penalty.
And I think I may have just saw a smattering of rain. I did. It's starting to show on the cars on board. So here in a couple of laps, we'll see these guys all diving for the pit lane. So it's here a lot earlier than I thought. So maybe those guys on the soft are going to catch a bit of a break.
Question is who actually has a soft setup? Who has a rain setup? We saw Get My Pipe. He set the fastest lap of the race with a 1:30. I believe it was a 1:38, 1:39. Pull that up.
The important thing to see here is that Get My Pipe is not pulled away as much from Marlon as I thought he would. He's only a half-second ahead, and Marlon's got DRS on him. If Marlon can get back ahead before the pits out, that could be the race, because then they'll be on level playing field. He doesn't go for a move here. Probably thinks it's a bit too risky. Wants to feel the track out a little bit more with this kind of greasy half rain that's going on. And it may not even get any worse than this. If that's the case,
Mr. Brown down on the inside locks it up a little bit. He gets past Like Me or Not. We're going a little bit side by side here.
Indeed, 4 cars all under a blanket. As it looks like we have somebody.
Ring Wraith.
That is Wraith. He has spun off the side of the track and knocked a piece of the wing off of that Haas Rich
Canada
Energy
King
car.
is spinning. It's like Canada King's having a little bit of an issue. It is really coming down. You can start to see Canada King's car start to slide a little bit.
Yeah, it is starting to come down, and that's going to just play into, I think, Get Me My Pipe's hands a little bit more, because he's on the freshest tires of those front 4 guys, all in the mediums, except for Marlon on the hards. Marlon's going to be the guy who is maybe not liking this quite so much right now, because he is on the tire that has the least amount of grip overall.
Big Mr. Brown makes it past ER10. Ring Wraith is dove into the pits. He's going to the intermediate tires. Was it too soon?
And Marlon's just picked up a 3-second time penalty. I think it is too soon for the intermediate tires, as Like Me or Not also picks up a 3-second time penalty there. Another one, actually. I think it is just a little bit too soon for these tires. I don't see enough water to warrant it right now, and I'm not seeing enough guys running off the road. Seeing a couple of guys kind of half spin as I see Canada coming on to the long right, having a bit of trouble keeping it straight, but he is on the hard tire, and one of two cars out there on that tire. Really, in conditions like this, it's just all about keeping it on the black stuff. Driving at 50% if you have to.
SF1 Rhodes gets past Mad Marlin here in this race, so that's going to put him second. I do know Get My Pipe does have a 3-second time penalty. Big Mr. Brown gets a 3-second. So as long as if it rains like this and there's no real collection of rain, and if Rhodes is able to reel in Get My Pipe in this race,
they're all headed for the pit lane right now.
Here they go. Oh, SF1 Rhodes gets a 3-second time penalty. Get My Pipe.
Well, everybody's level on penalties up front right now between these three. They've all got a 3-second time penalty.
Now the question is does Wrathful have a time penalty?
Let's take a look and find out, shall we? Wrathful has one warning the entire race.
Now with
so very good job by the driver of car 93 there to keep it on the track and keep it clean.
We have all the drivers diving in the pits. Like me or not, getting a massive jump in the pit. Nope, he's falling back down. Definitely keep an eye on
He's having
this.
a wing change.
Ooh. Question is, what is Get My Pipe's setup? Will it be able to handle the rain?
Well, usually a good car is a good car regardless of the conditions. Personally, I have never been a huge fan, except at maybe a couple of different tracks, of having an actual rain setup. Usually, I personally run a bit of a combination. I'll bump the wings up to the race just a hair, just in case it is going to rain. So if there's a bit of rain on the forecast, I might throw both wings up a click, or maybe the rear wing too, just to give that little extra bit of grip. Even though it's going to hurt me in the drying, when it starts to rain, having that extra grip is just absolutely monumentally helpful.
Looks like there was a little bit of a water buildup on the backstretch, unless that was just my graphics. It looked like there was a little bit of water down there. As now we're starting to see the spray come into a factor. A lot of the drivers spacing out due to this. That mid-pack between 6 through 9 used to be about 3/10 each driver. Now they've kind of spaced out to 1.6, 5.6. 2.7, 6.8.
Yeah, a couple of them had to have the wing changed because you really don't want to be missing pieces of the front wing in the wet on a Formula One car. It's such a crucial piece of the car because it's the first thing the air hits. It's what generates all the turning capability at high speed and somewhat at medium to low speed. Here in a corner like maybe turn 1, it's not the most crucial thing, but it definitely helps just to get the car pointed in the right direction. As soon as you can get it straight in these conditions, you can start applying throttle and start getting down that straightaway and away from the competition. Rhodes, who you said is actually not, he said Rhodes doesn't consider himself to be good in the wet, and I think he's somewhat struggled in the wet in the past. He is actually reeled in Get Me My Pipe by almost a second at this point, and Marlin is right on him.
And he is in tow. I don't know if there's a gentleman's agreement, but if there is, it seems like there is one for this race right now with these two drivers pushing to get My Pipe here towards the end of this race, as we now are lap 19 out of 28. We've seen 2 safety cars, a lot of wings, and a full thing of rain here at the U.S. Grand Prix as we get going. Now, as a driver for yourself, a question to ask you. Now, if it rains like this, what's going on in your strategy? I mean, if you're one of those mid-pack drivers, is it just head down, focus on your race, don't really worry a whole lot? Or is it like...
Pretty much the strategy just at this point is set and done unless it just completely dries out. So it's pretty much hammered down, but don't overdo it. Like right now, I think part of the reason that Rhodes and Marlin are reeling in Get Me My Pipe is because as the leader, he is the first one who is going around the track and finding the limit of grip. So you don't want to be sliding off the track because of that, because when you're behind somebody in the wet, you kind of have something to gauge off of and you can maybe just push that little bit more because you see, okay, they went in kind of slow and they didn't have any issues. Let me push that envelope a little bit more.
I agree 100%. Now Rhodes has brought it down to under a second to 0.8. Here they go through the S's. Rhodes now 6/10, 7/10 around there in the split. Like Me or Not also making a little bit of moves. He's now 4/10 back behind Run the Jewels. We're going to jump over with him now as they're starting to enter the S's. Is he going to get the better run on Jewels for 7th place?
I think a lot of what you just really need to do as a driver in the wet, it's not so much about being quicker than the guy in front of you. Obviously, you have to be quick enough to stay close to him and maybe be a little quicker just to stay on him, keep him under pressure. But if you can pressure a guy into a mistake in the wet, and he just goes sliding straight up the track, that's the easiest way to make a pass in the wet. Because diving up the inside of somebody on the brakes is very risky because it's so easy to lock up. The car just doesn't have the grip that it does in the dry. Or if you can find an advantageous line through a fast corner like this quadruple right-hander in the middle of Sector 3, if you can find a slightly better line than somebody, that can set you up to maybe just pull off a nice crossover on the switchback between that and the next corner if it's going the other way.
And there you said it, finding that line, it looked like Me or Not ran the wider line, gave him that better apex out of that corner, but because Jules was so much slower out of that corner, it kind of caught him off guard. As Rhodes is now still 6 to 7 tenths behind Get My Pipe. The top 3 are freight training through the S's as they go, with no space, these top 3 are just battling it out, and what an amazing performance. As Like Me or Not gets an amazing run out of turn 1. Looked like Jules lost it a little bit, like he had a little head of wheel spin there, as Like Me or Not is now starting to pull on him. Now, as Jules gets a 3-second time penalty, we're going to jump back up with Rhodes, as Rhodes is now about a second ahead of Mad Marlin, and it looks like Rhodes is starting to push. He's in overtake mode, and he wants his win. He wants to win it for USA as he goes through here. And I'm sure as a driver, when you're racing here at USA, especially in the rain or any track in the rain, you got to be very careful with your throttle input. Even the smallest amount, the back end breaks out, and you just, sometimes it just catches you off guard, even that little bit that you touch on the outside of the water.
Exactly, and any painted surface is going to be basically glassed over and smoothed off. The reason you can actually race somewhat efficiently on pavement is because it's not completely smooth. It has little grooves and edges that the tires will grab onto, especially grooved tires like these that are meant to dissipate water. They grab onto that, whereas a painted surface like you see on either side of the track here, that paint is just blocking pretty much anything from going into it, whereas the actual pavement, the water is somewhat seeping down into that versus just pooling up on top of it, which is why those painted areas get so treacherous and slick, the curves included.
Here we go. Looks like Mad Marlin is reeled in SF1 roads. A lot of these drivers are actually just, cooling their tires down, giving a little bit of space, and then waiting and then pushing, trying to catch the other driver off guard, thinking that they need to, not push as much because they think they got a separation in that. So definitely strong battle here from 1 through 3, everything from 4 through to the end of the grid. Definitely has separated themselves out. We have 6 laps left to go here in the race. We're going to do a quick order for everybody. For the viewers that are watching, thank you for watching. Thank you for supporting BRL. We have Get My Pipe. He is sitting first. SF1 Rhodes is second. Mad Marlin third. This battle for the top three has been amazing. Wrathful in the Racing Point, bringing home strong points for them. He's sitting fourth with 0 penalties. Big Mr. Brown is fifth. ER10 Motorsports sixth. Like Me or Not seventh. Run the Jewels eighth. Ring Wraith is ninth. With Canada King 10th. Loki and White Meat have crashed out in DNF. What a shame there for those drivers. If both looked very strong in the performance here in prior races as they go through. We're now lap 23 of 28. Get My Pipe showed very strong pace when he was going through qualifying. Canada King receives another 3-second time penalty. This is the make it or break it race. The question is, can Get My Pipe hold off the pressure that SF1 Rhodes is bringing? Definitely something to keep an eye on as we go through. Looks like Me or Not, he's still about 7/10 back behind ER10. Doesn't look like he's really making a whole lot of pace there for that Scuderia Ferrari.
I think at this stage that having Marlin be as close as he is behind him, Rhodes is maybe just being a little bit conservative and not wanting to lose out that second place. I think if the Renault wasn't quite so close, he might be pushing the conditions just a little bit to try and get closer to the Racing Point in front of him.
Yeah, that's definitely something to that I could see as a driver that you try to do. As seems like Mad Marlin's trying to reel him in as much as he can, but a lot of these drivers, they get about 5/10 and then they gotta back off, 5/10 and they gotta back off. As Wrathful's now fallen from this group to 7.3 seconds. So any kind of Get My Pipe.
As Get My Pipe lands another 3-second time penalty, so now Rhodes just needs to hold Marlin back. That's all he needs to do now for the next 5 laps. Is just keep that Renault in his mirrors and not get another penalty himself, or maybe try to force Marlin into getting one. If Marlin gets close enough behind him and ends up running off track because of it, just because of the outwash of the car in front and gets the penalty, that is going to put Rhodes in the catbird seat.
That's very true. Now the question also comes in is Wrathful going to push those last 4 laps? Is he going to try to reel it in? He could get a podium. He just has a warning, doesn't have any time penalty. Run the Jewels gets a 3-second time penalty. Now, if Wrathful can get it under 6 seconds or more, he could actually get that podium spot, depending on what happens towards the end of the race. Because, Get My Pipe's more focused on the 2 drivers behind him, as Mad Marlin looks like he just lost it in the back end there.
Maybe just a little bit, but these 3 have gotten a lot closer to each other this lap. Rhodes may have been saving up some ERS there that last lap, which is why he dropped a bit back from the Racing Point in front, because he's closed right up to him here. And he is definitely on a charge right now with 4 to go. Definitely say that he has got the tightest exit from that final corner of the 3. Marlin had the widest there, and he lost time because of it. So Rhodes keeping it very tight. He gets very close to the Racing Point on the entrance to turn 1, avoids the curve entirely, whereas Get Me My Pipe runs clean over it.
Here they go through the S's. Will Get My Pipe make another mistake?
Doesn't look like it this time. Pulls a little bit. He's definitely being a bit more aggressive with the curbing and the line through there than the Red Bull behind him is, and I think that's why he's netted that penalty. Trying to stay ahead so hard, he's actually shot himself in the foot almost.
Now, Mad Marlin, he's now 4 tenths back behind Rhodes. He's pushing also. Let's see where they're at. All drivers, this is weird. All drivers are in overtake. All drivers have the same ERS percent of about 60 to about 50-ish around there percentage here as they're battling it out. So there's no real advantage to either driver. The question is who's braking late, who's accelerating earlier, or who's
Exactly.
braking earlier, who's accelerating. I mean, it's definitely this has been the closest battle we've had all race, in this this last 3 laps that we have to go. We'll see what happens here as we'll ride along with SF1 Roads.
Yeah, that's who I've been on with here for several laps now. Just watching this battle ebb and flow. Rhodes has fallen just a little bit farther away. Mad Marlin's now caught up a little bit of that gap. It's still just covered by 1.2 seconds pretty much. Now 1.1 as everybody just tightens up down the straightaway. And that's just going to be due to the slipstream effect and maybe Rhodes getting a little bit better exit or Get Me My Pipe getting a little worse exit. It's also possible that Rhodes is running a bit more downforce because through some of these quicker flat-out corners, he is able to just gain that little bit on the Racing Point in front.
Ooh,
as Marlin now has gotten that 3-second time penalty. So that is going to make it to where Rhodes can just hold station and not worry about either one of them as long as he doesn't get another time penalty in these next 3 laps.
Now, I was riding on board with Get My Pipe when he was going through those S's, and he was very smooth through those corners. Like, you didn't see the front end breakout. You didn't see any like wish or wash on the car and things like that. Like, he's definitely showing a lot of strong performance through those S's. I'm thinking I think he figured out, okay, if I just stay in one gear, brake, accelerate, utilize that bog. Yes.
Is it just me, or is this rain getting heavier?
Honestly,
it looks like it looks a bit heavier than it used to be.
It does. And the interesting fact is, I was sitting there thinking to myself, I was thinking about it, I really was, and I was like, you know what? I wonder if it rains heavier, what could happen? And now that you mentioned that, there's a lot more rain and a lot more spray coming out of these drivers here as ER10 and looks like Ring Wraith, those two drivers are battling it out here. Ring Wraith 3/10, he tries to make the move on the inside into Sector 3. Ring Wraith makes it stick on ER10 for that 7th place.
Everything at the front still pretty much as was. Marlin has dropped back just a little bit that lap. I'm not sure if he made a mistake in the middle of Sector 2, but he lost a bit of time. He's starting to gain that back now. The big thing to take into account here as far as the on-track battle goes, not counting the time penalties up at this point, is that Get Me My Pipe is going to have probably the best tires out of the 3 because they've been so tight, and the aerodynamics off of his car are going to be affecting the 2 behind him. And Marlin's kind of getting a double dose of it, so I think his tires are probably the worst off of the 3.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it, when you were mentioning about him falling back in this race, I think a lot of it is as a driver, you make a little bit of a mistake, so you kind of have to like try to collect your thoughts for one race, like don't push it this lap kind of thing, you know what I mean? And then you go
exactly.
at it. Maybe you could catch off Rhodes. Rhodes may make a mistake, or he may go, oh, okay, Marlin's backed off a little bit. I'm going to back off a little bit and kind of catch him off guard.
Speaking of making mistakes, it looks like Get Me My Pipe may have gone a little bit wide at the apex at the end of the back straightaway because Rhodes is now all over the rear wing of that pink Racing Point. Falling back just a little bit here out of the stadium section, but he was all over him going into it.
Get My Pipe getting a better exit out of that, which I'm guessing is a triple right-hand corner here right before the last 2 corners, turn 18, I believe. As they go through.
He didn't get a good run through 19, though, and now they are all within a second. As Rhodes gets a little sideways off that final corner, gets a bit of a bad run. He's going to have to stay a little bit defensive. Marlin may chuck it up the inside of him here on the last lap.
Here he goes. Last lap. Does
Not
he
quite.
Ooh, but Marlin gets a better exit, it looks. I have to say, this
maybe
has been
maybe for just a moment he did, but go ahead.
I was going to say, I have to say, ooh, we have a yellow sector 3. It looks like
Jules has spun off at the long right. He is nowhere near anybody else at this point in time, so no big problems there. Canada King picks up a 3-second time penalty just in front of our 3 leaders here. Looks like Give Me My Pipe has broken away just a little bit from Rhodes and Marlin. You got to think if Marlin goes for the move here, Rhodes is probably not going to try and defend it too much.
No, I'm sure Jeff has already told him everything he needs to know about the drivers in the front and back. And aside from all the, the incidences we've had in this Tier 3 race, I have to give a lot of credit to the drivers that we have here, especially Get My Pipe, Rhodes, Marlin. Rhodes spins it! But where's Rathel? Rathel's coming down the main straight. He doesn't have any time penalties. Ooh, he gets a little bit.
Goodness, if this could just knock everything out of proportion. Rhodes, what did you do, man? You just had to sit there. He might still get it, but that was a very, very clumsy, unnecessary thing to have happen.
Mad Marlin now on the back end of Get My Pipe as Canada King spins it in that double right. He's going to wait for, I believe, the drivers to get around. Mad Marlin, can he get a better exit? Goodness. Here they go. Can he make it stick?
Not quite, but Canada's going to, or Rhodes is still going to get it on penalty. No, he's not. He's actually going to finish third on penalties here.
Wow.
So he threw away, he missed it by just the slightest margin.
Wow. Big Mr. Brown, he's coming across the line now. Where's he going to finish? He's going to finish 5th. Like me or not, we know Big Mr. Brown has some time penalties. Like me not also. Like me or not, jumps Big Mr. Brown. Here comes Ring Race. Can he jump the other drivers? No, he doesn't. He's going to sit 7th. Here comes ER10. He's going to jump them. He's going to slot up to 6th. Here goes Jules.
So, wow, Rhodes having the win pretty much in the bag. Runs into the back of the Racing Point of Get Me My Pipe, our winner tonight here, on the final lap at the end of the back straightaway, and then just finishes 1 second too far back to claim victory. Unfortunate for him. He'll probably be kicking himself a little bit on that one, especially if he didn't know that they had one more penalty than he did, and he had that locked up if he just stayed where he was.
Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Your winner in the Racing Point, who went pretty much a little bit tone-to-tone, but started on pole. Get My Pipe, followed with Mad Marlin in 2nd, and SF1 Rhodes 3rd. And here we go. We have Rathel with 0 time penalties. Who else? We've got, I saw another one. Looks like ER10 Motorsports also doesn't have a time penalty. Quick. And, yep, that's about it. I'm going to have to give Driver of the Day to Get My Pipe. He definitely miss everything, and then with the rain, and then to be able to hold off, to keep pushing, you know what I mean, and keep that delta time to the other drivers was just astonishing, to keep that pace to SF1 Rhodes and Mad Marlin. Definitely very strong performance. Mad Marlin going from 10th to 2nd. We got Rathel going 11th to 4th. I mean, who was your driver of the day today, Ferrari Dot?
I would just have to say throughout the changing conditions, I'd have to give it to Give Me My Pipe. Rhodes had probably the best race up until the last lap. If it wasn't for that last lap incident, I would probably say it was him, but he just threw it away at the last moment there.
Here, we're going to get the drivers in here so we can get their interview. Rhodes, can you please check the box to include your audio? Let's see. I'm just waiting on Get My Pipe. I sent him an invite. Did they possibly get offline? Then Mad Marlin is the last one that we need. I do not have Mad Marlin. A lot of these drivers jumping offline really fast. Apologize for the wait, everybody. There we go. Sent Mad Marlin an invite to the party as we get through. Looks like we just have SF1 roads. And I'm gonna let Ferrari not start us off with them as we wait for the other drivers to join on in.
All right, so Rhodes, did you know the two guys around you had an extra time penalty compared to you at the end of the race there?
No, I didn't. And I'm
Yeah,
gonna
not.
give a quick shout out to Get Me My Pipe about the contact. I'm glad that I didn't cause him to lose the race. That was completely my fault, as well as Marlon, who had to avoid it. So I'm glad those guys didn't get tangled up too much in it, and they were able to carry on.
Yeah, walk us through what happened there that last lap down the back straightaway into the corner at the end of it.
I was fighting Get Me My Pipe, but his straight line speed was just too much. I could catch up to him in the corners, so I think he was running less downforce. So when I would get behind him on the back straight there, I was pushing as much as I could, and I was keeping an eye on Marlin because I knew that the points matter when it comes to this point in the season. And I was focused so much on Marlin behind me because he caught up to me so quickly that last lap that I completely forgot about looking ahead of myself. And when I did, I was way past my braking zone, and I knew I was going to end up taking a bit of Get Me My Pipe with me.
Well, unfortunate there. Any thoughts aside from that on tonight's race for yourself?
Those last 10 laps or 11 laps with the rain were a struggle, but I think a lot of people did really well. It was a bit hectic with the safety cars at the beginning. I did go with a medium strategy to try to take it to the soft. I knew that the rain was supposed to fall at 45 minutes. However, it felt like it came a little bit quicker than average, so it might have helped me with a one stop to go to the intermediates. But yeah, it was just hang on and try to survive.
And
Indeed. All right, exit.
uh, because I do not know where the other drivers are and where they're coming, and I apologize to the viewers. We're hoping to get second and first place in here. So that just means another question for SF1 Roads, our second place finisher. Um, Now, of course, I had heard from some drivers that it was supposed to rain towards the end of the race. Were you expecting the rain to come as soon as it did? I do know you started on mediums, and were you also a little worried that towards the start of the race after the first safety car that uh, Mad Marlin had kind of jumped you in position and he was on the harder compound tire? You there, SF1 Roads? Looks like we have lost the connection to SF1 Roads. Sorry to the viewers there. But we are going to cut this a little bit early and a little bit short for everybody. Sorry.
The crickets are out in force.
I'm here.
Okay. My phone just went off. I apologize for that to all the viewers hearing a large screen show
But
the public service
I did hear
announcement.
your answer or
Okay.
your question, Exia. I was expecting it to come. I've learned this game the rain says predicted 45 minutes, but it comes a little bit quicker. It came right around when I thought it was. I thought it was going to come around lap 2021, so maybe a couple laps before. That might have had to do with the safety car. But I knew it was coming. I didn't think it was going to be heavy rain at the end like it was, and that was a bit difficult to navigate.
Well, I'm happy to see that you're still able to. I believe you did clips the championship in this, finishing third. We'll have to double check and have a follow up on Mexico, because I'm not that fast of a mathematician right now. But I would like to say congratulations on your third place finish. Truly amazing. Also, like to give a shout out to the viewers who watched. Thank you for watching. Thank you for tuning in through the whole entire Tier 3 race. Thank you for all the drivers that came out to race with us. And I'd like to say, if any of the driver or any of the viewers are interested in joining in with us next season for the F1 2020 release when it comes out in July, please check us out on Facebook. We do have a Breakout Racing League Facebook page where you can watch all our past races. Also, if you have questions, you can reach us out there through Facebook Messenger, as well as check us out on Twitter, where we'll also be posting races and up-to-date tweets as we go through. Message us there. Also, we'll get with you in messages. I just want to say thank you guys all for participating in racing. Thank you to Ferrari Nut being in the booth with me today for the U.S. Grand Prix. I am BRL Exia 1984, and we are signing off.